So I want to talk about a question that I see coming up a lot, which is what foods are healthy for the body, or what foods our body needs versus what's spiritually good for us, or what's spiritually uplifting, I should say. Because so I saw someone was talking about, fruit being the best food spiritually because heavier foods, darker foods make our aura darker. So for example, meat. And what seems to be in conflict with this, and it's not really a conflict, I'll explain why, but what seems to be in conflict with this is how recently there have been people who've been saying they were vegan and they switched back to eating animal products or eating meat, and they found a resolution for health problems. And I actually personally have experienced this too. So I had a problem with anemia, and I switched to eating meat, which I hadn't eaten in almost like 10 years, and I got healthier. So, but I still would say that the most spiritually uplifting foods would not be meat and would be, fruits and things like that. So what's the seeming contradiction, or how to explain it? So what our body needs at different times is not always going to be the same thing. Like the foods that we need at one point of time will change based on what's going on with us. And there's so much fun. An example or an analogy for this that I would talk about would be like using crutches. Okay, so if you break a bone, you need to use crutches. If you break your leg, right? It's hard to walk without them, or it's hard to get around without them. If you don't have a broken bone and you're trying to walk on crutches, it's going to slow you down. And the same is true. So if our body is working optimally, working really, really well, we should be able to get all the nutrients we need. And even there's people who are so advanced that they can get all the nutrients they need just from the atmosphere, right? Because everything is made of stardust anyways. And so all the elements and all the things that our body needs to recreate itself, to rebuild itself, are there in the atmosphere, in the cosmos. Look at plants. They can just create food from sunlight, right? And water, and minerals in the ground, right? So they bring these together and they create food. But what happens is that usually our bodies don't work optimally. And then we need to, give it something. And these, like an animal product, it's like a more crude form of the nutrients that are needed. So the most refined form of the nutrients is not going to be from an animal product, but it could be what you need if you have a deficiency. And deficiency generally comes from, unless you are in a situation where you don't have the food you need, but it generally comes from the body not absorbing the proper nutrition from the food. And that could be not eating the right food. It could be something physically wrong. It could be emotional issues. It could be not exercising properly. It could be eating foods at wrong times of day. So there's all different factors that can contribute to that. And that's a much larger question. This is actually the foundation of Ayurveda, is proper digestion. But I wanted to explain this particular point about the foods, the plant versus animal foods, or, foods that are heavier in energetically versus lighter energetically, and why sometimes we need the heavier ones energetically. It still doesn't mean that they're lighter. The other ones are still lighter, but we just may need that for our body at that time. And there's this concept in Ayurveda that what is medicine for one person could be poison for another. Or what is medicine when it's eaten in a certain way at a certain time of day or time of year, etc., could be poison at another time. And I know that we're used to thinking like, oh, this food is healthy and it's just a healthy food versus an unhealthy food, but that's not necessarily the case. So, there could be, for example, ice cream, right? Some people are lactose intolerant. Actually, that's not a good example because people don't think of ice cream as a healthy food. I'm going to give the example of a salad. That's a good one. So a lot of people think salads are like the most healthy food, right? It's pure vegetables. It's so healthy, right? But salads have a lot of fiber. And if you're eating salad and you have, maybe your digestion is not optimized for some reason, let's say you are weak and debilitated because you're sick, or you are sedentary, you're sitting at a desk a lot, or you just don't deal really well with fiber. Eating a salad can cause you to have gas. And what that means is that you're not going to absorb the proper nutrition from that salad or from your other food, quite frankly, because anything else that is in your digestive tract when you're having that gas issue is also not going to be digested, not going to be assimilated properly. So you can get excess calories and not enough nutrients. You can get not enough of both. All kinds of things can happen if you're eating the foods that are not right for you at the time. And I'm not saying don't ever eat salad. That's not the point. A small salad with a lot of oil is good for most people at the start of a meal. But people that are exclusively eating salads and they're having, if you are having no digestive issues and you're eating, that might be what's good for you. But if you're having some digestive issues, you could look at that. And again, I'm going to go more in detail on this because it's a really, really, really large topic. But I just wanted to explain that point, how, sometimes the foods that are lighter in energy are not going to be the ones that are healthier necessarily for our body at that moment, because our body may have specific needs based on what's going on.